8 years, refuses to have a wedding. My 32 female fiancé 33 male does not want a wedding of any kind. No elopement, no ceremony, no rings exchange, no vows, nothing. I always wanted a traditional medium-sized wedding, but I've compromised to doing an elopement with just my parents present. He refused. So I compromised again and said, let's just do the paperwork like he wants, then go to dinner with the 4 of us and celebrate. He refused. Then I said, okay, let's just do the paperwork and dinner with the 2 of us and then get some pictures of the 2 of us and maybe do a party or something with family a few months from now. He refused. I just want to make it special. It's important to me and I've expressed that to him and he will not compromise on anything. We've been together for 8 years, so it's not as if we don't know each other well. I'm really starting to rethink getting married and even staying in this relationship. But he says I'm being bratty. Am I putting too much importance on this? Anyone else just do paperwork and call it a day and not regret it? Edit to add, he just wants to do paperwork and make it legal. He doesn't want a ceremony or fanfare of any kind. He doesn't have family he wants to invite, and I'm very close to my family and want to have them at something. He also wants to focus on saving money and not spending it on a wedding. Also, thank you for all the time everyone has to leave thoughtful replies to the post. It's really helping me reflect on the situation and I appreciate the responses. And there were some relevant comments, so Trillium Summer starts off with, how much did you push for him to get engaged? Because my spidey sense is saying that he wasn't so willing to go down on one knee. My bet, he doesn't want to get married. He caved to the engagement and now bashing the wedding is his latest way to delay and push it off. Opie says, I really didn't push. We've been living together for 7 years and he just showed up in the kitchen one afternoon with an engagement ring. I was like, okay. I do also think you're right that he doesn't really want to get married on some level. The thing I'm confused about is I was very slow to schedule anything because I'd rather delay it than give in to something I don't want to do. But he asked me daily to schedule an appointment to do the paperwork. Why not just leave it alone and wait for me to initiate everything? Wouldn't have even scheduled the paperwork if he didn't keep pushing me because I wanted to plan an elopement. Another user says, OP, after reading your post, I have a feeling he doesn't even want to make it legal. You offered him many options. What's the problem with signing the papers and having dinner with your parents? Is that an inconvenience to him? OP says he doesn't want to spend the money and thinks I'm too dependent on my parents. I see them for holidays and talk to them on the phone weekly. He isn't close to his family, so he thinks I shouldn't be. His Ash14 says he doesn't want to get married. My guess is you were talking about getting engaged to shut you up, he proposed. I want to know the details of how you got engaged. Did he half-arse it, put effort in, etc.? OP says it was 100% half-arsed. But for some context, he does have mental health issues and doing big things tend to be overwhelming, which I get, and that's why I don't generally expect a lot. We don't go on dates, we don't do much at all to be honest, but that's the place he's at right now. He got a ring from a family member and gave it to me in the kitchen and said, want to get married. I also didn't push him to get married, but I am wondering now if he asked because he felt like he should. Hoshi Jones says, is he considerate of you in other ways, or is he generally as dismissive of your feelings as he is about this? If it's just a quirk and he's wonderful and caring man otherwise, just let it go I guess. But it seems doubtful that a man who exhibits such a complete lack of regard for your wants and feelings in this will be a good partner. Only you can know that, and I've seen you carefully not answer any questions about that. Opie says, it's kind of complicated. He has some mental health issues he's been dealing with since before I met him. He doesn't want a ceremony because he has no family he wants to invite, and he doesn't want to spend the money, which I understand, but I think he's going too far in the opposite direction. If he can't have his way, no one can, and again, I'm wondering if I should see this as a red flag. I do overlook times when he doesn't show up for me, and these comments and questions are making me reflect on those, and I'm seeing a trend. They are things that I thought were upsetting at the time, but decided to move on from because they're little. Like not taking me to the hospital when I was sick, not giving me a ride when my car broke down, not going to my graduation, things like that. I take him to everything, and even drove him an hour away to a doctor's appointment after I worked. but I show love through acts of service and support, and he thinks financial support and spending time with him is love. I'm wondering if we're just incompatible, and this is the first real big life decision we've tried to make together. Quite Successful says, is he the same for every celebration? He never has a birthday party or goes to dinner to celebrate his birthday. Opie says no, which is another reason why I'm wondering if I'm making this too much of a big deal. He doesn't celebrate anything. I always get him a cake, make his favorite dinner, and wrap a gift for his birthday. But he doesn't ever ask to do anything or mark it in any way. Mine either. He usually just asks me what I want to do for the day, and I buy myself a gift. He's not a big thrills kind of guy, which I've never minded except this one thing. Maybe I'm asking for something he really isn't capable of doing. Now, I can kind of understand, not wanting to have like a massive wedding and all this kind of stuff. I can get that, but there was many compromises OP went down in this situation, to even just having dinner with the parents, which I think is a great compromise, and the fact that he didn't leap on that is saying a lot to me. And that added with not wanting to celebrate anything with you, not going to your graduation, helping you like when you're ill, when you do everything for him as well. I think I just have to be blunt and say, why would you want that? I understand like some people are much more introverted. I'm an introvert myself. Don't like massive gatherings and various things like that, but it doesn't feel like that to me. I keep coming back to the not going to your graduation. I just found that incredibly sad. But OP did come back in to update the post and says, after reading through the comments and reflecting, I had another conversation with him. He agreed to have dinner with the two of us and take a couple of photos, but only if he could buy himself a new computer. That was much more insulting to me than anything before, especially because he claimed his reason for not agreeing to anything is mostly because of money. I think most of the comments were correct in that he never really wanted to get married. I called everything off, cancelled our appointment to do paperwork, and returned the ring we bought. I'll have to deal with telling my co-workers, but I guess I'll Google how to tell people without going into too much detail. I am leaving him. I ignored a lot of stuff with him because we are financially stable together, comfortable, and he was my first and only relationship. So I think I just wanted to make it work and didn't really know what was normal and what I've learned to tolerate. There was just a couple more comments after this one to OP. So Nut Brown Ale says, who allows ring returns? Also, you said in the first post he didn't want rings to save money. Something is off. OP says, we bought our wedding rings through financing and he gave me a family engagement ring. I gave them both back to him. Revolutionary T says, I'm sorry OP, but you did the right thing for you. How did he take the news? OP says, initially he was really angry and talking about how I get everything because I got 2 rings. The date I wanted, photos and dinner, and he doesn't get anything out of getting married. That's it all for me. Then he calmed down and said he wants to get married because I'm his best friend and he loves me. I'm probably going to go to a friend's house or my parents today because the last time we broke up, I ended up going back. He told me to pack and that he would get rid of my stuff if I didn't. Boot Bebop says, this dude really wanted a PC as a dowry because he wasn't getting anything out of the marriage, to which Duke Doozy says, I really don't want a wedding, but if you're going to be so insistent, let's at least make it an RTX 470 themed. Red flags all over. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story from Alaska with ADHD from the Am I the Arsehole subreddit. Does come with an update as well and says, am I the arsehole for how I responded to my fiancé refusing to hyphenate his name? Oh dear. My 24 female fiancé 29 male are planning to get married in the next couple of years. We're realistic people and understand that arguments are normal in relationships, but recently we've started applying for our marriage license and the topic of last names came up. I said that I wanted both of us to hyphenate so we have matching last names. The reason why is because my last name is important to me as I'm the last one in my family with the name. My partner wasn't comfortable taking my last, which I understood, but he doesn't want to hyphenate his name. I asked him to clarify, thinking he didn't want our names to change. And he told me the woman hyphenates her name, not the man. I was confused and clarified that we should both hyphenate, and he refused, saying that's not how it works. I asked him to think about it, as it was slightly important to me that we have matching last names. Here's where I think I turned into the arsehole. This morning, Fiancé asked to talk, and he said he was not changing his name as it made zero sense for him to, and my name wasn't really going to change when I did hyphenate. I was pretty upset but left it alone. Later in the day, I spoke with him and said, I understand his point of view, but since we couldn't come to an agreement as to matching names, I would just keep my last name as it is now. He got upset with me and said I was being obtuse, but I know that's not how it works, and we wouldn't be considered married if I didn't hyphenate. I argued that this was the best case scenario, as we couldn't come to a solution that we were both comfortable with. We're trying to be civil, but it's become a sore subject, and we don't want to fill out paperwork while this is hanging above us. So Reddit, am I the arsehole for threatening to keep my last name as is? Edit, I'm adding this because it keeps popping up in the comments. He was raised Christian and his parents are from America. All the women in his family have taken their husbands' names. I was born here and raised Catholic, but my family is Hispanic. Migrated here when my mum was 14. Nobody in my family really changed names, but it led to problems like picking up kids from school because everyone had different last names. Despite our upbringings, neither of us are religious whatsoever, and we both have similar views on politics and such. Also to note, he said the word threatening, not me. I put it in the post because of what he said. I remember a story a while back where there was a hyphenate. This is a bit unrelated in this kind of context, but there was a couple getting together and they both had like hyphenated names. And when they're getting married, it was like a four-name hyphenation, if that makes sense. It was really confusing for me. But in this particular story, you know, you both can't agree on the surnames, etc. He doesn't want to hyphenate. The stuff that he's saying, that's not how it works, is absolute bullshit. And trying to put myself in this position, and you know, I was with a partner getting married, and they said like, they don't want to hyphenate a name, but they wanted to keep their last name. I wouldn't have any problem with that at all. If I was in that position, I wouldn't want to change my last name. I totally understand the ties or sentimentality, is that the right word, towards your last name, and that you wouldn't want to change it, or maybe even you wouldn't want to hyphenate it either. I understand wanting to keep that last name, so you know, that wouldn't be an issue for me, and I never quite understand these arguments around it either. Opie added an additional comment and said, I don't know if this is important, but my father passed away when I was younger, and I was his only child. I'm the only one in my family with a Hispanic name, so my last name is the only connection I have to him and my heritage. Woman TX says, honest question, if two people with hyphenated names, I don't know if this is related to that story, get married, do they have four last names now? When does the recursion stop? Opie says, okay, so when we talked about kids, when we first started dating almost 4 years ago now, we both agreed that we'd take the approach of sons take the mother's last name and daughters would take the father's last name. Well, hence why this whole name conversation is frustrating me, because we've had conversations about more concerning topics, but usually can discuss quite calmly. Okay. Endiel Zenon says, so adding his name to your name isn't really changing your name, but adding your last name to his is, and you're not really married unless you change your name. I think your boyfriend's a little bit unclear on how this whole marriage thing works. Not the arsehole. Keep your name and ask yourself what else he won't be willing to compromise on if he can't compromise on that. Neo says not the arsehole. You have what you want to do based on reasons that matter to you. He's also allowed to have his preference and opinions on the matter, but it just doesn't happen that way is, in my opinion, a pretty poor rationale to take. Newly married myself, and the wife asked if I'd be okay if she didn't take my name at all, which I was fine with since it's not my name that determines who she is to me or what our relationship is. It's not exactly traditional in any sense, but some arbitrary set of rules made up who knows how many ages ago, and not how I choose to live my life. Dogs reading book says not the arsehole. That's not how it works. We're in 2023, not 1923. Many couples getting married nowadays hyphenate their names. It doesn't make sense that he gets mad that you won't hyphenate your name. He won't even consider doing the same. This would absolutely be my hill to die on. 11 Time says, not the arsehole. He's got an outdated mindset and isn't going to be healthy down the road. Just keep your name. Answer to Mrs./Mr. whatever his name is if it comes up. But keep your name. How it works is a mentality that meant women couldn't have their own bank account or credit card until the 70s. Traditions do change, and some need to. I'm in the same boat. Last in my line on my dad's side, so my last name is important to me. My husband's thankfully really understanding and unbothered by it. It's close to his family, so is keeping his, and it would be a monstrosity hyphenated, let alone all of the proof of name change paperwork in perpetuity. So we're just staying as is. And any future kids would be a discussion if that's a bridge we end up crossing. And one more comment from Impressive Rock 2279 who says, not the arsehole. The whole women taking their husband's surname was because women and girls were deemed property. The tradition of a father giving away his daughter by walking her down the aisle was also a literal thing. Your father owned you and he gave you to your husband who then owned you. You went from your father's surname to your husband's surname. The wedding ring you wear used to only be for women because it showed other men that you're already the property of some other man. If he's not prepared to change his name in the same way he expects you to change yours, he does not view you as his equal. Did you know that in the days of slavery, the slaves also took on their masters, slave owners' surname, and if they were sold, then their surname would be changed to their new master's surname. So, Opie does come back in to update the post and says thank you to everyone who commented their thoughts and judgment. I'm sorry it took me so long, but I have an update. Right after the post was made, we had a death in the family. We're both grieving and giving each other space and grace. Recently we sat down to pay bills, like we do every month, and I asked if we could talk. He said sure, and I brought up the last name argument and how I felt it went unresolved and had sour feelings remaining. He agreed that it didn't end properly, so we talked. Like all the comments suggested, I dove right in and asked why he had such a problem with me keeping my name. He immediately apologized and admitted he overreacted and acted like a child. He even apologized for calling me obtuse and said that it wasn't appropriate to call me names, no matter what. He said he wasn't sure why it bothered him knowing how important my name is to me, and he didn't communicate that very well. He told me it was 100% my choice if I wanted to keep my name and that his opinion didn't matter. I then asked about his "that's how it works" comment, and it turns out this one had a little more reasoning. Turns out because of the previous mentioning passing of the family member who was ill at the time of the argument took place, he had more contact with his family than he usually tolerates, and you can probably guess where I'm going with this. He had a little birdie on his shoulder telling him that women always take the last name. Not sure who, but I have a couple of guesses. He usually is pretty resistant to this kind of blabbering from his side, but emotions were already high. He once again apologized, even saying he was a major jackass, as I'm not his property. Basically, in general, he apologized for being a jerk and would support whatever I wanted to do. We did talk a little more and establish how we would discuss frustrating things in the future and about healthy communication, and ended on a very positive note. Now, what I'm sure everyone is wondering what I'm going to end up doing. A couple of comments mentioned how some people replace their middle names with their old last names, and I really loved the idea. So that's what I'm going to do, as it was the option I was the happiest with. We get matching last names, and I get to keep the last name that was so important to me. Once again, thank you to everyone that commented and gave me their 2 cents. So there was a comment straight after this one from Hammer's Girl who says, so the compromise you were happiest with was him not compromising at all. You giving up your middle name and not keeping your family name in a way that we pass down at all. How did he manage to convince you that was any sort of compromise? That's wild. Obi says he didn't. I sat and thought about that option and really liked it. I'm not attached to my middle name whatsoever. Actually happy to be rid of it, as it's a little old-fashioned. I'm able to keep the last name with me while still having matching names with him. After thinking about it, I realized I was more upset about me specifically losing the name versus passing it down. How the conversation went was he told me why the situation bothered him, and then at the end I revealed what I had decided, so zero convincing from his side really happened. Now, what do you guys make of this situation? How do you think you would deal with it if it was you? Are you married and did you keep your last name? Was it an argument or anything like that? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Just a huge